How about we talk about the most insane, bloodthirsty, evil woman of all time, shall we? Let's get into it. Hello everyone. New here?
Hi, how are you?
My name is Shayna, and in my little corner of the internet, we talk about spooky history of all kinds. If that's something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell because I am here for you every Wednesday. Last week, we talked about spring-heeled Jack. If you missed it, I'll be sure to link it up here for you. Notice anything different? To all my people who have been with me for a while now, I'm not in my bedroom anymore. Let me know what you think of my new backdrop below. Also, everything that I use, I have links so you can see what I'm using and if you're interested in what I'm using. But anyways, I'm gonna quit jabbing and let's talk about Elizabeth Bathory. So before we go into all of the craziness that has to do with Elizabeth, let's talk about her upbringing. Elizabeth was born August 7th of 1560 in Hungary, and she was born into a very prominent Protestant nobility. So her family controlled all of Transylvania, and her uncle Stephen Bathory was the king of Poland. And she was raised in her family's castle, and she was a very beautiful girl and was very well educated. At the age of 11 was when she would become engaged to a Count Ferenc Nadasdy, and she would end up marrying him at the age of 15. Now there was some rumor that before she got married to the Count, she had some child with this lower classed man, and that the Count had him killed because of this, and then they just hid the child out of sight. I don't know if that's true. It's a rumor that I read into, so who knows. But after the wedding, the Count's family gifted them a castle. Mom, you're watching this? I wouldn't have minded a castle. Now from 1585 to 1595 was when they started having children. Now one source said that they had 5 children, but that 2 of them died when they were infants, and then they were left with 2 daughters and a son. But then another source said that they had 4 children and that none of them died. So I don't really know what's true. If you know what's true, let me know, because I found 2 different things, so I'm not exactly sure. Now Elizabeth was a truly evil human being. I mean, really bad. Her favorite hobby was torturing peasant girls and stealing their blood. What for, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. She would use the young girl's blood because she believed it kept her young. It was rumored that she drank and bathed in the blood of her victims. There's a story that goes that she got so mad at one of her servant girls one day that she smacked her so hard that the girl actually bled, and some of the blood got onto Elizabeth. And she swore that the skin that had the blood on it and started looking younger. And after this, it seemed to have awoken this bloodthirsty killer inside of her. Now I did read something that could have really introduced her into all the torture, so that her uncle actually taught her about Satanism, and that her aunt taught her something. I cannot pronounce the word. I'll put it up on the screen for you. But I had to look up the definition because I'd never heard of it before. So let me pull that up for you. It's the sexual gratification from the infliction of physical pain or humiliation either on another person or oneself. Sounds like a very loving and supporting family she was born into. Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure if the story about the hitting the peasant girl so hard that she bled is true, or that she's just used to torturing her servants because of what she was taught when she was raised. I kind of feel like that second option is true, but I mean, you know, this was so long ago. Who knows? Now the Count was a soldier, so he was gone a lot, and it said that while he was gone she did take on many lovers, but he did try his hardest to please her. And it said that he built her what every psychotic woman dreams of, a torture chamber. Even though he didn't really stop her from what she loved most, just torturing young defenseless girls. But eventually the Count would end up passing away in January of 1604. So after that, Elizabeth would have to take care of all of their extensive estates. She was responsible for all of it, which also meant that it gave her the freedom to do whatever she wanted, because she didn't have to worry about the Count, she didn't have to worry about anybody telling her what to do, which I don't really know if the Count stopped her at all. There's some theories that he taught her how to properly torture someone because he was a soldier, so I'm not really sure. There's really no evidence because, you know, he passed away before she was caught, and I don't think she really said anything, so Who knows? Now, she did have help. She had help from a former nurse, and then she also had help from this local witch, and then she had help from someone else. I just couldn't figure out who it was. It might just have been one of her servants. She did have some help in torturing these young girls. So her strategy was to lure these young girls to her estate by offering jobs as a maid or servant. When you were a maid back then, wasn't that like a decent job title, especially to someone so high up in the status or high up in the ranks, you know what I mean? Wasn't that considered a good job, a decent job back in the day? So the parents were sending their daughters off thinking that they were going to have a wonderful job and be able to support themselves, maybe find a husband, I don't know, but you think you're sending your daughter off to do something great or, you know, move up in the world, I guess, for their standards. Their daughter ends up going to this torture chamber instead. I mean, that's awful. Now, she was able to get away with it for a while because she was using peasant girls. I mean, she was such high status and high nobility that no one could really touch her. You know what I mean? So the parents couldn't really do anything about it. But Elizabeth eventually leveled up. So then she started abducting girls from a slightly lesser nobility. And these girls would be sent to her castle to learn courtly etiquette and social advancement. And this would eventually be her downfall. And soon after that, the more noble parents in that society realized that, you know, their daughters weren't coming home. They know that they sent the daughters to the castle and they never came home. So things started to unravel for Elizabeth, unfortunately. And then soon more than 300 people came forward accusing Elizabeth of abducting and killing their daughters. But what they would later find out was truly horrific. Now, as I said earlier, Elizabeth does enjoy torturing her victims, but I didn't say how bad it was. Now, there were some survivors and witnesses that were able to explain what happened in the castle and in the torture chamber. Here's what the torture included: severe beatings, burning or mutilation, freezing or starving to death. Sometimes, this is truly awful. Sometimes Elizabeth would cover her victims in honey and live ants. Who would think of that? She would also burn them with like hot tongs, and then she would also put them in freezing water. I mean, it's just awful for these young girls. I can't believe what all they went through. She would also stab them with needles and scissors and even bite them. Really? After she was found out from all the witnesses, she would be arrested in 1609, and then she'd be tried for her crimes in 1611. Her accomplices were immediately sentenced to death, but Elizabeth was of noble blood. So she was confined to her quarters, and that is where she stayed until she died in 1614 at the age of 54. So not very old. It was crazy. So after the police collected all the evidence from the witnesses and tried to estimate how many of these girls actually went missing, they counted as high as 650 victims. So she killed that much. I'm just gonna assume in a 5-year time span from when her husband died to when she was arrested. But like I said, we don't know if her husband participated. So that's crazy. And that's when she was labeled the Blood Countess. She was then put in the Guinness World Records as the most prolific female murderer and the most prolific murderer in the Western world. I wonder if she'd be proud of that title. Now, there was some who think she was innocent of these crimes, and this could be possible. Apparently, most of the 300 witnesses were hearsay and weren't very reliable. Now, the testimony that Elizabeth had, the 650 victims, was a second-hand accounting of what the court official had discovered, but the official who supposedly seen this info didn't even testify, so who knows if it was really true. But they believed that her imprisonment would give her family members access to her powerful possessions. So essentially, they wanted her out of the way so they could get all of her money and all of her estates and all that stuff. Kind of messed up. And some people also just owed her money that they didn't want to pay back, so they kind of testified saying, oh yeah, she killed this many girls. Saw it with my own eyes. Yep. Now in 1602, there was a priest that went to visit the Count and Elizabeth way back in the day, and he wrote a letter about how he felt they were mistreating their servants, and that's how the whole thing could have just blown out of portion from there. But unfortunately, we will never really know what happened in that castle and if there were 650 victims, because I mean, that was so long ago. It's just one of those cases where you wouldn't know unless you were there. So unless any of y'all were there or have any more information, let me know. But I want to know what you all think. Was this woman some super bloodthirsty, murderous person who bathed and drank in these victims' blood? Honestly, I don't know. I kind of feel like the family wanting to take over her possessions seems more likely, because 650 victims is a lot. A lot. I mean, she's labeled as that. I mean, being put in the Guinness World Records as that's kind of making it seem like it's true. That's what the majority believe. But hey, every scenario is possible. Who knows? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you like the new background. And if you'd like to see me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because I am here for you every Wednesday. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. By the time I'm recording this, it's actually Mother's Day weekend, so I hope you guys had a great Mother's Day for all you mothers out there, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!